Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Tarot Cast, a part of the Spiritual Phoenix podcast. This is just a free weekly tarot reading where I go through and kind of bring up some cards and tell you how they relate to you as an individual. For one, it's a way to get a sample of my reading style, and then for two, it's a way to just kind of give back and offer some support for free. One thing I just wanted to touch on real quick, if you follow my pages or Instagram or anything like that, you'll notice that I've kind of updated the logos on both my Oracle at Mushin account and the Spiritual Phoenix account. Just wanted to breathe some fresh life into everything and lighten up the Oracle at Mushin the way that I present it to people. And there's all sorts of reasons behind that. It's not the platform to get into that here, but I just kind of wanted to share that real quick. And that being said, we'll get into the first card of the reading, and it is the Camel, and this is from the Wild Unknown Spirit Animal deck. So one of the things that when I think of a camel, I think of the ability to go long distances without water. Water would be relative to emotions, but it's also kind of this nurturing, life-giving force. So this would be a tip of the hat to people that have been going through difficult situations and not getting any rewards. It's kind of this persistent drive despite the difficult efforts, but then it also shows that you have this natural storehouse of ability to get through it. And part of that whole process of personal development is learning to rely on your own inner resources to make it through difficult situations. But then also when you come to a point where you need help, having the capacity and the courage to ask for help. Another element of this is the moon. So the moon is all about kind of illuminating difficult circumstances. The light blue color of the moon to me speaks to the aspect of being able to communicate. Light blue is the throat chakra, which is about communication and expression, being able to communicate when you're going through this difficult stuff. But then the moon is also in the, it's a crescent moon, which means part of it is eclipsed, where you communicate all that you can, but part of what you're going through is inexplicable and you're not even really aware of it on a deeper level. And then the element of this card is Earth, if I am not mistaken. And then Earth is all about the concept of material realm, kind of the manifestation of things, and dealing with this aspect of being in the desert. Recently, let me get into that. By being in the desert, I mean being in this expanse of maybe not getting what you want and having this open playing field for creation. Recently, I was listening to the Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I don't know that I pronounced that correctly, but it's irrelevant. And they kind of talk about being able to learn from the desert and the wisdom of the desert. And I think that there's a lot of this wasn't maybe the allegory they were going for in that story particularly, but there's a lot of wisdom in being able to understand the openness of your life and then how you fill that up. And one other thing that I want to touch on before we move forward is consider like the desert where they have Burning Man, the Black Rock Playa, and it's completely open expanse of nothingness until they have Burning Man there, and they completely build this amazing otherworldly experience. And that's kind of what the openness in our life can do, and the ability to trudge on through this openness goes into the manifestation aspect of the Earth card. And I hope that that makes sense to somebody beyond me. Sometimes the way that I draw information in can be confusing to people, and I can respect and appreciate that. So getting into the cards that are coming up, you have Two of Arrows and Justice, and this is from the Wildwood Tarot. It is in the reversal position. I'm going to flip it around just for the sake of being easier for people to see it. But arrows in this deck is relative to your mind. It would be swords in traditional tarot, so it's kind of thought, understanding, conception. And the card itself is called Injustice. But I would say that when it's reversed, it might just be kind of being aware of the balance of things. Sometimes reversals aren't direct opposites. In this one, I would say, though, that it's about understanding the give and take nature of life and allowing yourself to be centered in that. It would go to the Hermetic principle of neutralism, or I think it's polarity, and then the center point of polarity is the neutralism, and understanding how you can let either big shift lead you to a neutral point, and how the neutral point or the balance point there is actually what keeps things in order in your life. In my experience, and this is just me, maybe yours has been different, when I have these really far out there good swings, I'm setting myself up for a far out there backswing. So learning to be in the center point and gradually raise the bar on my life allows me to mitigate some of the backswing. That being said, there's also the concept that if you apply the law of polarity, that you're able to like focus on the upswing and completely like avoid the backswing on a conscious level. But it also talks about in the Kabbalion that being reserved to more so people of a master status. And although a lot of people in the New Age world like to think that they are masters, most of us have a long way to go, myself included. And it's only been within like 3 years of a really disciplined practice that I'm beginning to understand kind of like how far I really have to go. And it's not to say that I haven't made progress, because I've made abundance of progress, but it's just I'm barely scratching the surface on personal cultivation. It's a lifelong journey. And that would also go to the camel as well, kind of the lifelong journey of cultivating yourself on the spiritual path. It's a long process, so you better have some good resources. Moving on, we come to the King of Arrows. And again, this is kind of the, it would be the king of mind. So it's kind of holding this high place in thought. And if you notice, there's this water down there. Water is relative to the emotions again. And it's being able to separate yourself from your emotions so you're not controlled by it. The diffused green back there, to me, would speak to the heart chakra. And it's being able to keep your mind heart-centered, like thinking from your heart and not being overly emotional. So emotions do hold a lot of benefit for us. That's one of the things that separates us from like robots in a real way, is emotions. But it's also one of the things that can that creates most of the problems of our experience. A lot of the difficulties and things that we suffer in this life are directly related to people being in their emotions and not being able to keep their mind in their heart and to separate their mind from their emotions. This is something where I'm still a victim to it at times, and I think that most of us really are, but you can pull yourself out of it. And I would say that this week in particular, the card is asking you to pull yourself out of your emotions and respond from a place of, of love and understanding. Then we move on to the next card, and you have the 5 of Arrows. And again, Arrows is about thought, and this is frustration is what comes up here. So the frustration aspect of this would be setting your mind on a particular target, but maybe that target isn't what you're supposed to get. So a big thing in the spiritual community is this concept of manifestation and law of attraction and all of this, which is all well and good, but law of attraction is focusing on one law and ignoring all of the other aspects that are at play. Law of attraction is one, but there's I forget how many laws there are of the universe, and it's even arrogant of me to say I forget how many. There's more than we probably even are aware of on a deeper level. But outside of these higher laws, there's also a lot of micro laws or just micro occurrences that prevent things from manifesting how we see them. So when you set yourself on this particular target, you're creating yourself up for frustration. part of happiness is acceptance and surrender to the universe and what it wants to deliver to you. Because if your whole relationship with the universe is this transactional one of, I'm going to do this and you give me this and let's acquire all these material things, that becomes somewhat problematic, and it falls more into the problems that we face in this world than the solution. That being said, we should be able to get some of the things we want if they're within reason and if they are for the betterment of other people beyond just ourselves. And I think that is the tricky part, is really understanding, is what I want, is that actually what I need? And how is me getting what I want going to help me help other people? And just a brief example of that would be, let's just say that you need a new vehicle. Now, would getting the most expensive, most badass vehicle, would that be the best way to help other people? No, but could you get a decent car and then use some of the other money that you've saved for something that might be able to benefit people? Yeah. So this is kind of where some things get a little bit tricky. I really want a simple life personally. I want to be able to have a nice piece of property somewhere, but have a small house and have things simple. Some people in the spiritual community feel that they deserve to have mansions and all this flashy crap. And I guess if that's what they want, great, but how does that help other people? And that's kind of a big debate there. Is that more self-centered or is that more spirit-centered? And realistically, if you get down to it on brass tacks, I'd say it's more self-centered. But I digress. Anyhow, the main concept here is be prepared to go through the difficult journey of life. Also understand that you have the resources to get through tough times. Communicate the difficulties in your emotions. Try to seek a point of neutralization of things. Try to be in the middle ground, more so than on either end of the poles. That is the balance point. Learn to put your mind more so into your heart and to be more heart-centered. And then also don't be overly emotional. And then finally, don't become so focused on one specific outcome that you miss all these other opportunities and then create yourself up to be disappointed and frustrated when you're unable to hit a target that you weren't supposed to be able to get anyhow. Thank you so much. Peace.